In this lesson, we're going to work on a larger canvas, which is a little bit different technique, a little bit different thought process, so I want to go through that. Working small is the best way to practice, best way to learn the basic fundamentals of painting, and then doing big ones once in a while helps you apply what you know. You kind of see what you've learned over a series of smaller paintings. So I'm going to be doing a 16 by 20, which isn't real big, but it's a lot bigger than 8 by 10 or 9 by 12. And I'll be working a little bit differently. And the first stage will be about the composition, the drawing, and then the type of blocking I'm going to do for a larger painting, and how I'm going to try and simplify everything else. The whole lesson is on kind of the ideas of the reference, thumbnails, value patterns, and how I'm going to change things. And then the painting is going to be a little bit bigger, so kind of the thought process of doing a larger painting as well. Even though we're working a larger one, the main things are how you compose. A good composition carries a painting a lot farther than anything else. How we think about color, thinking in terms of suggesting what the light's doing instead of just copying the photograph. I've got some of the images here. They're all going to be late afternoon, early morning, a lot of contrast, and all the subjects, I believe, are going to be homes in Arizona, old ranches. But the light will be very dramatic, so we don't have to worry about forcing the light in there. But I want to look at a few of them and again talk about composing. Now the photo here, and I'm going to go through some of these, and they're all set up with a certain type of composition just by the shape that they have. This one, while it could be a square composition, I could come in here and let's see, get somewhat square here. That would work pretty good. That would be a good composition. Nice, strong, dark and light. Shadow in the foreground, bright light on the focal point around the arch, and nice shapes and light on the trees. So that would certainly work. I think overall it has a nice horizontal feel to it. I do like some of the red roof on the right side, and of course the arch is kind of the focal point with some of the shrubbery near the arch. And I also like the bare tree way over here, but don't fall into the trap of trying to squeeze in everything. So I'm going to forego the roof and include more of the trees on the left. I could go the other way. I could go this way, which I think would work pretty good, but I like the shapes of the trees and the light on the trees a lot better. So I'm going to go that way, and I'm going to do it a little more horizontal. And again, you could make this any shape. I think this kind of sets up as kind of a horizontal type painting. That reads real well. It's pretty heavy on the left side, all the shape and value on the left side. But this one dark shrubbery here balances it off with the trees in the background. Remember, you don't want equal weight on both sides. Then it's symmetrical. But I want more weight on one side with a smaller object balancing it on the other. That object could be something in front here. I don't know what it would be. Horse, figure, shrubbery wouldn't quite do it. Not enough interest in it. But my focal point's still going to be this area right in here. As I move away from that, I will get less and less detail. I do like the bare branches. I could move these branches, the bare sunlit branches, and move them over here. That would pull more interest around the center of interest. So there's a lot you can do with photographs. Again, if you don't have Photoshop, you can't do them on the computer, you can certainly do them in the thumbnail like we used to do in the old days. Use pencil and paper. And I still do both. I'll do this on the computer and then I'll go ahead and do it on the sketch pad. I think I do more of the trying to figure things out on the computer. Then when I think I have it, I'll do a couple more on the pencil and paper, but the computer kind of gets me through that. I used to do 8, 9, 10 thumbnails to kind of figure out the best one. Now I can do it a lot faster on the computer. When I think I have the better one, I'll mess with it a couple of times with the drawing. Maybe more so just to keep my hand in the drawing, but it does help to do both. And this is another one. My focal point is going to be the tree and part of the building there. And I see this more as a square also. Doesn't, or more as a square, the other one being a horizontal. Maybe a little bit, well, I'm going to resist the urge of, again, trying to get too much. I'm not going to worry about the part of the building on the left side. And I will get more here. A little bit of that porch. And you can always squeeze things. Kind of don't have to have the same amount of space between objects. So if I wanted to move this porch over to here, and then I would have to move that in there and that over there. I could certainly do that and have the porch here. Just have a little bit more of it, maybe just one window in there instead of two. And again, the weight is on the left side here, so I might lift this bare tree up, maybe create a bit more of an interesting shape than just that, half round dome shape, which gets kind of boring after a while. So I might think through what I'm going to do shape-wise for this bare tree. I wouldn't want it as tall as this one, because then if you get them the same height, again, it gets kind of static and symmetrical. So this is the heavy side with all the weight on it, and I think the porch and the tree will balance it out. And the real strong light, I would probably think in terms of getting more light in the foreground here. There's nice light on the shrubbery, the house, the tree, so I can come in here a little bit more light in there, I think, pops it a bit more. I do like the shadow in front, but maybe add a bit more light to it. This is a bit too much shadow right there. Too much shadow all over the whole painting. So introducing, again, more sunlight in there with some variation of dark shadow, because it can get dark pretty quick when there's too much shadow. Now the other one here, this one works real well. Again, it's too big here, it's just too long, so I want to crop it down. Not quite a horizontal shape like it is. So what I want is a lot of that background, there's a lot of background depth in there. So again, more of I like a lot of the foreground. I don't want to put the wall and the buildings too far down below, so I want more foreground because I like the shadow across there. Then I would really push the idea of these background trees, and again I can change the shape of them, create more interest, really push them back in the distance. Then as they come forward, gradually getting a little darker. So I create a lot more depth in there. Then in here I can get darker yet. And that separation of the temperature, gradually getting bluer as it goes back, really increases the sense of depth in there, keeping the lights pretty strong. I can really kind of think through the colors that I'm going to use. Then the building in shadow. And I would rework this shadow here. It's too much of just a circle there of shadow. I'd kind of push and pull it a bit more. Maybe let's go with the orange first. I like the light in there, and I would just break it up a bit more. Not quite sure how much I would break it up, but it's a little too much all the same. Kind of develop a pattern in there. And again, computer allows you to do that a lot more. I don't really like what I've done there. It's a little too light. I would use more of a muted violet and get a little stronger color in there. And that works a little better. I like pushing the shadow a lot cooler with the idea that I can come back with some orange, wipe most of it off my brush, get it real thin, and kind of knock down the violet with a little bit of pale orange. Not pale, darker than the light, but not as dark as the violet shadow. And it would blend in. It's not blending in at all there, but redesigning that shadow pattern. Now this is the one, I would want to make some changes. I want a little more distance. So I would put, like I did in this one, the distant, really bluish green trees. both of these are backlit. So the trees get real hazy, muted blue, blue-green in the distance. Then I want more sunlight in the foreground. And I want to change all the green. I'll have more yellow-orange grass, kind of a yellow-orange-green, but more on the yellow-orange side because I have so much green everywhere. Then I want to introduce a little bit of those red tile roofs, like this right here. In here, so I'm going to add that in there. And the sky is real warm because the sun is in front of the viewer. We're looking into the sun. It's over to the right. It's in front and really affects the value and the temperature of the sky. So these are the changes. I added some yellow and orange with a little bit of cerulean, kind of chopped it in. But if the sun is right here, of course it's not right there, it's more over to the right where you can't see it. This is going to be the warmer yellow and orange. The distant trees, really blue-green, just creates more depth in there. I'll shape up these trees here. I have these two, this tree on the right and this tree on the left, too much the same size. So I would probably lift this up. That way they're not the same size. What I don't like also is the even spacing here and here. It's just the same. So I would probably leave the tree on the right and maybe move this tree on the left over like that a little bit, or have it come in here a little bit more. That way my shapes aren't too symmetrical, and that would look like this. But I'll spend as much time as I need kind of redesigning things. Now that works better because now there is space here between this tree and that tree, that space there, but none over here. So it just reads better, trying to stagger the shapes a bit more. And I don't know about this tree on the left. If I put it in, it's going to be a smaller tree, but it really doesn't need anything there. It might turn into a bush here in front a little bit. But I added more light in the front. I turned it from a green to more of an orange green. There's a lot of orange in this yellow green, because in the photograph, everything's the same green. Same green down in the grass, it is in the shrubbery, and pretty much the same in the trees. So changing that up, I could even get some red violets or so in the trees as well. And I will probably introduce some light on the shrubbery. But change up the shapes of the trees just a bit, not much. Made them a little more dense. And added a window here, because I don't like that window. And the red tile roof back in the background here. It adds a bit of red with all the green. And I'll, again, probably adds a little bit of red violet in the trees. It'll be shadowed red violet, so alizarin crimson and a little bit of blue. A little bit of red in there. So it just kind of breaks up that green. And I don't have to draw all of this perfectly. It's just spots of color and value and see how they work together. My focal point is going to be this side of the building, the sunlit building with this tree. That's kind of my focal area in there. So this helps me work out the problems and how I want to change things. So I'm going to start with a thin drawing with color and go from there.